YouTube fandom community, big fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about BiG's brand new album, their debut album by BiG. It's called Small. And it's also on a compact disc. I know you don't see me hold those too much, but once in a while, I appreciate myself a good CD. So this is the debut album by a band called BiG. They asked me to review this album, and I really enjoyed doing so. Wasn't sure what to expect going into this, because the cover for me doesn't sound like how the band sounds, but I kind of dig the cover. It's kind of got this gloomy black and white kind of thing going on here with a nice picture of a tree there. But, yeah, kind of a cool little cover there. But anyways, the album itself for me is really reminiscent of all the cool things that make classic rock vital and still current. So for me, this album has, I was going to say Traces, that's the first song of the album, it's called Traces, has traces of, ZZ Top, Bob Seger. I get a little bit of even like some U2 influences once in a while. Early 90s rock, I mean, there's just a mixed bag of feelings and influences that they wear on their sleeves really well without sounding tired, without sounding like they're just ripping off the old school stuff. They're making it their own, and it just goes to show that rock and roll never really gets old. As long as you perform it with emotion, you believe in what you're doing, it's going to come out sounding really good. And that's what BiG does in this album. Like I said, this is their debut album, and the first song on here, Traces, this one in particular is straight up blues rock, which I really dig. The production on this song and the whole album in general, very clean, very tight, very punchy, and it can breathe really well. It's got a nice bit of echo here and there, which is really cool, but this track in particular definitely has like a Stevie Ray Vaughan, ZZ Top vibe. The lead singer on here is a guy named Gary, and his vocals are very Billy Gibbons-esque, if you ask me, which I love Billy Gibbons' voice. Very cool stuff. So to hear them play with this blues rock barroom vibe is a hell of a lot of fun. Because it doesn't sound like you're just going to watch a band and have a beer. It's like, these guys are really good. Like, there's some like really good playing here. The drums are super tight. The guitar work is just like well seasoned, and you can tell these guys have been playing for a while. So it doesn't come across as like a couple of naive people who picked up their instruments for their first time and wanted to sound like Led Zeppelin or something. It doesn't sound like that at all. It just sounds like a group of guys who really want to prove themselves as a solid band. And that's what carries this whole album through. It's not just that first track. It's in fact all of them. Later today, the second song on here, that chugging rock riff is like one of the most used rock and roll riffs ever, but it's something that just never gets tired and never gets old, because if you've played that riff, you know how it feels, and you know what it invokes in you. And if you're in a band that's also doing the same thing with you at the same time to make that sound happen, it's contagious. You want to keep going with that riff. But it's just dirty, it's gritty. The guitar work here is just expertly performed. Heck of a lot of fun to listen to. And like I said, well seasoned. You can tell these guys have been really studying their craft for a long time to really produce some well-made sounds, well-made music. The lead vocals continue that Billy Gibbons feel, which again, I really enjoy. And this song in particular builds and builds and builds over and over again, which I kind of like too, how it just kind of keeps that tension going, so you're hooked with it the whole time. You can call it blues rock, but it's a little bit more than that. It doesn't feel like you can just throw the label on of blues rock, because it's got elements of the guys involved that don't just settle for we're a blues band, or we're a blues rock band, or whatever the case may be. Picture this, track 3 on here. This track in particular is where things start to change. So you kind of leave that blues rock feel. You come back to it eventually, but this one in particular, for me anyway, had a very early U2 feel. It had a bit of an I Will Follow kind of thing with the chimes, the tom-toms doing their thing over and over, the echoey guitar. I really like the bass on this track in particular sticks out really well. Yeah, and some of the guitar work does have even like a late 70s ZZ Top feel, like when they were doing Cheap Sunglasses and I Thank You and that kind of stuff. It's got that kind of like chimey, Birds-influenced kind of guitar sound. The lead vocals on this one are a bit more reserved, and I think that kind of adds to the aesthetic and the feel of the track overall. A little bit more of a tender kind of approach. which I think is cool. Because you've had a couple of rockers, might as well scale it back a little bit. So, right off the bat, the roller coaster of emotion has happened. We started off pretty high, keep that momentum going, let's take it back a little bit. So you kind of get into the mood a little bit. Rain Dance. This track in particular for me, I'm getting a really early 90s, almost a Black Crowes kind of feel to this one. Definitely an early 90s rock, and I almost throw in a bit of like early Blind Melon, like their first LP. But I like the chord progression on this one. The chorus chords kind of show the guys going in a bit of a different direction that channels away from that blues rock vibe that starts off the album. And I particularly like how the bass is like really forward in the mix at one point. I think that's really cool because the bass playing on this thing is fantastic. So it's nice to hear those bass leads kind of taking over for a little bit. But really cool song overall. Living in a Dream. This one kind of feels to me like it's a bit of an anthem, or even like a mission statement, if you will. Kind of just like a declaration of getting up and getting through the day, and dealing with the present, remembering your past, wondering what your future is going to be, and how to achieve that. So kind of an overall song of just, being aware of your surroundings and yourself, and whether or not you're living in a dream or trying to figure out how to get out of that dream and make that dream a reality. So lyrically, one of the more interesting songs on here for sure. It starts that path of songs on this album that I feel lyrically get more deeper and deeper as you go. Getting a really big Bob Seger vibe on this one. I can totally see this like on that live album or something, which I really like. That Bob Seger vibe on this is pretty cool. Not a lot of bands have that kind of sound these days, which, so if you're a fan of that classic rock, 70s rock feel, but with a mix of the now, I think you dig it. Fall. This is a song that stood out to me. This is one of my favorites on the album too. Really digging that drum and bass shuffle in the beginning. Those drums are just real clean, real tight, real punchy, but they just don't stop. They're just like perfectly syncopated, really, really well done drums. I'm a big fan of playing drums myself. Gary's voice on this one I really enjoy, and lyrically it's pretty heavy. It's an interesting topic to sing about autumn and the feelings that come across with that, and changing of the seasons, and particularly with fall, watching the leaves come down and things start to go away. The season kind of dies and leads to the bleakness of winter, and how that might relate to a relationship or a situation in your life or something you're dealing with. Things come to an end, things change, seasons change. The end of an era, if you will. And so that's kind of a cool lyrical concept to cover. But musically, I think it's a really interesting song and one of my favorites on the album. Time and Again, this one, it comes right back to that dirty blues feel again, which is nice because, again, like I said, that roller coaster, the mixing of this album, the sequencing, is really well done because it takes you on a journey. It takes you through that up and down, back and forth, which is really cool. It's not just like rock song heavy and then ballad heavy and then whatever heavy. It's a mixture through and through, which, if you ask me, makes for a good listen because taking you through those emotions gets you excited for the next thing. Oh, okay, there's a come down here. Okay, oh, this is going to be exciting next. I'm ready for it. Cool. But Time and Again, like I said, back to that dirty barroom blues, and that's kind of, for me, that's, I think, what they really specialize in. They do a lot of other good stuff, but for me, I like when they just, like, rip through the blues stuff. But that time refrain is really awesome. It's a cool breakup to the rhythm of that blues riff. The jamming at the end, I think, is fantastic. So yeah, really digging that track. Libertad. This is the ballad of the album. So there's an actual ballad here. More of a slow burner. This track in particular, for me anyway, shows off the mixing of this album and the production. To really hear that clean separation of all the tracks, you get the bass, you get the drums, you get the vocals, the guitars, and none of them sound muddy or cluttered together. You can hear that separation and how they all join together to make one song. Really cool mixing on this one. It's a very pleasant track overall. Not really my favorite, but I really do enjoy it for its mixing, for its production qualities. And the last two songs on here are actually acoustic songs, which is kind of cool to have that kind of end off the album. But Are There Saints in Hell? I'm loving the acoustic guitar on this one and the cajon, as it's called, which is that box thing, that drumming box thing. This song for me sounds like an old classic rock staple. Like if you were to put on the radio and listen for songs that would have been released in the early 70s, this would have been one of those songs. It's got that kind of classic rock mentality. especially with that refrain. You know, you take out your lighter and hold it up in the air when you're at the concert. It's got that audience participation kind of feel where you're all part of it together, singing this song together, asking the question, you know, are there saints in hell? Really cool track. Might not be my favorite on the album, but I definitely appreciate it. And People, this is one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's another acoustic one, and I'm getting a really, you know, salt of the earth, Rolling Stones vibe on this one for sure. The lyrics are great. They're about unity, coming together, peace and love. What's wrong with that? What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? It's just a message about trying to solve our problems with getting together, coming together, listening to each other, being cool with each other, and just trying to find common ground and work to a common goal, which is peace and love, man. So I'm really digging that. It's an excellent track, one of the best on here. You can't go wrong with nice messages of peace and love. So, but that's the album. Here's the back cover. Bit more of an up close picture there. The track list, guys on the band, and the disc itself has the album cover again, but with the song names on it. So yeah, I really enjoyed this album a lot. I really appreciate the guys reaching out to me to see if I'd review this thing. I will start reviewing local bands or, you know, up-and-coming bands a little bit more often on this channel. It's something I'm slowly diving into. So before I start throwing a bunch of albums my way, I'm going to be very, very picky, and it's not going to happen too often. Once in a while I'll do it. But I really enjoyed this one. This was a fun listen. You know, you can find them online at thebandbig.com, where you can sign up for their newsletter and, you know, listen to their songs and buy their CD here and go see their shows when they're coming to a town near you. But overall, out of a 10, I'd probably give this thing a good solid 8, maybe even a light 9. I really, really enjoyed it. It's something I do find myself listening to again. And the more I listen to it, the more I discover the different layers they put into it and kind of the details. And, you know, you can tell they really took their time with it. A lot of love went into this thing. And it's just a good listen. If you're looking for a fun album, you know, it's got some really good rock riffs on it, but some really nice lyrics about coming together or unity or love or introspective stuff about wondering where you are in your life, things that we can all relate to. Highly recommend it. So thebandbig.com, go check these guys out. Their album's called Small, and I'm going to give this thing a real solid 8. I really enjoyed it, and excited to see what these guys do next, and excited to see them in concert at some point. So that's it. My name is Giggens. This has been the band BiG with their album Small, out now on the internet. So go pick it up. But yeah, solid 8. My name is Giggens. This has been BiG. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.